Are Lego games getting worse? That's the question that's been on my mind, and that's the question that we're going to go on ahead and address with today's video. Now, let me go on ahead and first and foremost lay a little bit of groundwork here as to how we are going to go on ahead and determine this. So first and foremost, of course, there's 1,000 different Lego games that have been released. If we talk about different platforms, whether it be handheld versus console, versus PC. Then, of course, we also can go on ahead and create subgenres within that in terms of RTS, action adventure, racing games. But for the sake of this video, we're going to stick with the most popular version of Lego games, and those are the games made by the company known as TT Games. So that basically means that we're going to be tackling the games that were released from 2005 all the way up to 2022. That entails 27 video game releases, which is pretty insane if you really think about it. I mean, we're talking about just a 17-year time span with 27 video games released. That's a lot of games. And so it'll be interesting to see whether or not there is an element here of oversaturation in terms of the sheer number of games that have been released versus the game quality itself being affected. So let's set some ground rules as to how we're going to determine this. I know that there's a lot of different platforms that you could utilize for going on ahead and measuring video games, whether it be the most popular, which is probably Metacritic, not IGN, but IGN does appear on Metacritic. There's also OpenCritic, which is very popular as well because it gives more balanced reviews and it doesn't favor any one website. But then, of course, the problem was that some of these games were released so far ago that Metacritic and OpenCritic don't actually have data for those particular releases. And so I had to find a website that actually did provide all of the game releases so that it's kind of in one aggregator and it's all surmised nicely so that we have a consistent through line to utilize. And so because of that, I did go on ahead and utilize the Internet Game Database in order to determine all the different scores for the different 27 releases that we're going to be going through. Now, as I began to aggregate a lot of this information, a lot of really cool stuff has actually revealed itself. So let's go on ahead and run through some of that. So first and foremost, there have only been 2 years in this entire 17-year timeline where there have not been Lego games. And those would be the pandemic years, because in 2020 and 2021, those were the only 2 years that did not see a Lego game released within that branch. Again, I will clarify, a TT game released. So if you're quickly typing down in the comment section below, what about Lego Star Wars Battles? That is not going to go on ahead and count because that is a separate release. So we're again sticking with just the main game releases from TT Games. On the flip side of that, the years that actually did have a lot of game releases were 2011, 2014, and 2017. Make a guess as to how many games were released each of those years. Not cumulatively, but each one of those years featured 3 brand new Lego titles. That is insane. I honestly did not realize that, and it's really fascinating to see just how many games they were able to release in such a short time span. Now, beyond that, there were also a handful of years where 2 games would be released. Those would be 2008, 2012, 2013, 2016, and 2018, which seemed to kind of be the regular schedule that they were going for. The overall pattern, we kind of got used to the idea of at least one Lego game being released every single year, because that was the case starting from 2005 all the way up to 2020. And of course, then we had a bit of a drought with 2020 and 2021 not featuring any releases whatsoever. But then here comes Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. After going on ahead and tabulating all of the different details around these particular games, I did go on ahead and assemble a chart that goes on ahead and nicely surmises all of the scores for the games. And again, this is an cumulative score, so this will account for different platforms and it does an overall balanced average for the game release itself. There were some really interesting standouts here in terms of what were the best releases. So if we're talking about the very, very, very best, that would be 2 titles actually tied at 85% score out of 100, and that would be Lego Marvel Superheroes and Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. I suppose it's not really that big of a surprise when you really think about how popular each one of those titles are, but I really did think that maybe Lego Batman would be able to squeeze into that top tier echelon as well. And then on the worst side of things, no surprise there, it is by far the single most hated Lego game ever made, and that is Lego Movie 2, the video game. The other thing that I wanted to go on ahead and do is calculate the overall average that Lego games receive. So I wanted to go on ahead and basically aggregate all of these scores and then take a look at what are we working with in terms of like, what is the average score that a Lego game would attain? Are they bad? Are they good? Are they better than we thought? Maybe they're worse than we thought. Maybe there's a lot of nostalgia that clouds our experiences from playing these games when we were younger. And surprisingly so, Lego games overall tend to score in the range of around 75%. So that was very interesting. I was like, okay, that's pretty much like a solid entry as far as a video game is concerned. That means that they are not exceptional like games like Elden Ring or a game like Bloodborne or something that is considered, to be the very, very best of the best. But they're also definitely not just average games. They definitely stand out above the rest. There's an actual mathematical support for Lego games being well made. Now, I apologize to interrupt this video, guys, but I do want to go on ahead and quickly mention, don't forget, if you're enjoying the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you could, please consider supporting the channel by grabbing some merch. That would be absolutely awesome. Huge thank you to those of you that have been picking up the merch. It really does help out a lot. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Get back to it. And so now let's go on ahead and answer the question that I asked at the very start of this video, and that is, are Lego games getting worse? Well, kind of. But also there's some good news. So if we look at this chart right here, it is quite evident that Lego games have kind of straddled the same line of around 70 to 75% ratings throughout its entire history, with a few exceptions, of course, the highlights being the release of Complete Saga and Lego Marvel Superheroes, and more recently, the release of Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. The lowlights, of course, being the two Lego Movie video games, which are by far the worst entries on this list. But the most interesting thing is really the latter half of the graph there, because if we look at around the 10 last releases of Lego games, it really does support the idea that Lego games kind of topped out as far as their quality is concerned, and we saw a steady decline in quality. However, here enters Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, and that's where the good news comes in, because it is the game that broke the pattern. It has now spiked way back up to an overall rating of 81, which is exceptional. That is the highest rating that a Lego game has scored since the release of Lego Marvel Superheroes, and boy, oh boy, does it ever deserve all the accolades that it has gotten. It is actually the highest selling Lego game in the initial 2-week window. So we'll see. Hopefully it continues to build momentum as more and more people hear about how wonderful this game is, and maybe more and more people give it a chance, because I think that it is, in my opinion, the single best made Lego game that we have ever seen. Yes, there's a little bit of recency bias here. I am certain of that, but we'll see how it holds up in the future. As of right now, though, from just a technical standpoint and an ambition standpoint, I do think that Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is kind of what we were hoping to see after a 2-year drought from no Lego game releases at all. And so now the ball is in your court. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think? Do you think the Lego games were headed in the wrong direction, but now they have made a very, very obvious pivot upwards? And so the future is bright for the Lego game genre as a whole. Let me know down in the comment section below. Maybe you disagree with that thesis. Maybe you think that Lego games are headed down, back down to the drain, and going to continue the pattern that they were on before that. Maybe you think that there is something charming about even the worst entries on this list. Let me know down in the comment section below. I'm actually very, very curious to see what you guys say, because I'm going to do an actual feedback video depending on what you guys drop down in the comment section below. So if you want to be featured in that video, go on ahead and take a moment and leave a comment down below. There's no risk if you don't try at anything, so I'ma just keep buying everything. See you in the next life, have to be a better me. I don't think that my head's on straight, gotta flip it and grip it and go and get an x-ray. What's wrong with me? I just feel weight pushing on my chest and it squeezes till I suffocate. Better change my mindset, meditate. It's pretty cool that I'm alive and have better days. I could walk, see, hear, I should celebrate. Think I could change my mind, maybe elevate.